What's up, guys? This is Mr. Eldridge, and in today's lesson, we will finish off looking at Unit 6 of the College Board Key Concepts with alternatives to capitalism, and then finally, the role that women will play in this Gilded Age. There are going to be many criticisms of this capitalist model that was going during the Gilded Age. And one of the most important in history is that of Marxism. Marxism is a 19th century socio-economic theory incepted and propounded by Friedrich Engels and Karl Marx. While Marxism itself arose out of the economic and historical conditions of Europe, it was essentially a response to the conditions created by capitalism in the 19th century. Articulated and codified in the Communist Manifesto, the pamphlet sought to historically analyze social and economic systems and offer an egalitarian alternative to the inequalities of past systems, particularly capitalism. Marx and Engels theorized that history and inequality and class oppression could be reduced to a struggle over private property. Whether it be master versus slave, patrician versus plebeian, feudal lord versus serf, bourgeoisie, capitalist versus proletariat laborer, the problem, as far as Marx and Engels were concerned, was private property. The struggle for the means of production, land, labor, and capital. To these men, the poorer classes of history were oppressed, and social exploitation was responsible for the inequalities and the ills of society. Communism, and specifically the proposition by Marx and Engels, proposed that each person worked according to their own strengths, equally dividing the ownership and work to evenly reap its benefits. To achieve the goal of eradicating inequality and oppression, Marxism asserts three things. First, a revolution must occur, as the oppressed and exploited working classes seizes the means of production from the tyrannical and corrupt middle class. Second, a temporary state-run economy would distribute land, labor, and resources equally in a socialist phase run by a working class government. And then three, after this had occurred in states across the world, boundaries would be dissolved and people would work harmoniously in a borderless world of local communes that divided ownership, labor, and their benefits equally according to their own abilities. Unfortunately, 20th century regimes that attempted to employ Marxism, such as the Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin, China under Mao Zedong, Cambodia under Pol Pot, and others, all resulted in famine, shortages, oppression, and murderous disaster, killing an estimated 100 million people. Another popular alternative vision in the United States economy came from the American Henry George. In 1879, he published a book titled Progress and Poverty, which argued that while effective, the free market system allowed for real estate speculators to benefit disproportionately, while offering little to nothing in the way of developing land. While they certainly risked their assets by purchasing real estate, speculators were often rewarded simply by purchasing land and selling later without improving it. To George, speculators were essentially purchasing land with borrowed money and profiting by reselling the property later when its value had increased without any labor or effort. As such, George proposed the United States issue what's called tax capital gains on land holding in an attempt to redistribute wealth and or reduce wealth inequality by aiding the poor. These capital gains taxes were seen as commonplace, but no such involvement by the government in the economy had ever been practiced in United States history. Finally, we look at women in this industrial America. While women did not directly gain any major rights in the late 19th century, economic conditions were such that women were afforded far more opportunities and independence than they had in the past. During the Second Industrial Revolution, there were a large demand for lower middle class jobs that required training, such as teachers, nurses, clerical jobs, operators, managers, and other corporate, educational, and health-oriented jobs. Many of these jobs and opportunities were both desirable and freely available to women for the purpose of providing economic independence. Such jobs offered freedom from traditional family structures for those who so chose it. Aside from the opportunity of employment, women quickly became and still are the primary drivers of the free market, as women have consistently been responsible for 70 to 80% of the purchasing of goods in a free market. This also made women the single most important demographic to which companies could focus their products, marketing, and advertisement.